questions for you, so we'll get straight into it. Can you tell me you're the president of the Business Council of PNG. What exactly does that involve?
So, as the president of the Business Council, the Business Council has a specific role. It plays an important role as well in the country. We facilitate and improve our dialogue between businesses and the government. And a lot of focus is around the business priorities, addressing what those business priorities are, as well as keeping a pace, I guess, of government initiatives as well to foster future growth and development of the country.
Who are your members?
We have just over 100 members, and they comprise of corporates and as well as medium to small businesses. Mm-hmm. We have an annual membership subscription, and what's important about the council is it has two major events, an annual start of the year or kick-off for the year would be the Back to Business breakfast with the Prime Minister. The purpose of this important breakfast is we have the Prime Minister to address the nation with these initiatives, and we do have his colleagues as well as key members of the council involved, and we talk a lot to a lot of the public and government initiatives.
Can you tell me the vision and the goals and the vision of the council?
The key purpose of the Business Council is to be the voice of the private sector to the government and the people of PNG. Based on that, there were development priorities that the council has put in place since 2017. It's over a 5-year period. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of the council is recognizing 4 key specific areas, looking at broadening the industry base of the country, provisions allowing and talking to provisions of infrastructure and basic services of the country, productivity and employment, a key component of that, and as well as looking at government regulation. So the vision of the council is by 2022, Business Council would have progressively addressed most of these development priorities.
Can you give me a brief on the 9 cluster groups that you've identified as priorities for the council to look at?
Part of the council's work is there is an implementation model, and based on this framework, the 9 working groups that have been put in place will look at formulating priorities, articulating those priorities, and then influencing those priorities. So through that process, the 9 working groups represent collective business priorities, and basically the process to articulating these priorities is around having the right authority comprising of both business and the government to advocate the purpose of the strategy. And in doing so, there's continued engagement between businesses, between governments, agencies, and of course, most importantly, being able to influence the priorities. And this is where we have business advocates in the private sector and in partnership with their government agencies able to influence public policy law reform and influence development narratives going forward. The 9 cluster groups are specifically focused on the key priorities, and as mentioned, in engaging with ministers and their officials, we also have the group chairs of these working groups that comprise of industry experts. Mm-hmm. And these 9 particular working groups, we have an internet working group who's focused on affordability and pricing around internet. We got energy working group focused on tariffs. There's a fiscal policy working group. Government regulation is focused on ease of doing business and the reforms around that. There's innovation and agriculture working group. They're focused on sector facilitation. Creative industry working group, a new and interesting one, is focused on protection of MSMEs and around the copyright and cultural property components. There is a working group focused purely on productivity and employment, and that's around the skills needs in our country. And of course, the council advocates and is working for businesses to around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for PNG.
What is the immediate priority right now of the Business Council?
So it's critical for PNG, and in order for prosperity of our nation, and I guess the destiny does lie in having a strong government, strong public sector. and as well as a strong private sector. That's very important, I think, for PNG going forward. And both these two sectors must develop and deliver to our people energy and internet infrastructure that will transform lives of people, achieve sustainable development goals, promote our micro and SMEs in innovative and creative and agricultural sort of industries. And of course, we want to have a productive workforce. So these priorities can only be achieved when the barriers of government regulation and our business practices that would limit inclusivity are removed. So these are the key priorities for the Council at this time.
If I can just include one last one, with this situation now with COVID-19 in the country, is it safe to say that the Business Council is working tirelessly in partnership with the government in addressing the new normal when it comes to business practices?
Yes, certainly, and I think it's very important, and we have communication with members of the Council that the Council is working very closely with Office of the Controller, with leaders, with the Prime Minister in helping us get through to find that balance. It's important to focus on the health measures that must be in place. It's also important that we focus on the economic recovery of our country. So that balance of how do we address both areas is critical, and this is where Business Council has been working tirelessly, I would say, from the very beginning, from the SOE days, and continuously worked in terms of today going forward to provide information and provide feedback from what our members and what the businesses are experiencing. So it's important, and government is receptive, and that's important as well. They're receptive to having that feedback, receptive to having that dialogue, and it's very. We do want to acknowledge that government. It is challenging for all parties. It's challenging to be able to find that balance, but happy to say that the fact that both the private sector as well as government are receptive to hearing and finding that a balanced approach to addressing what we're currently going through.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to having updates with you in future episodes as we go.
Thank you very much.